Welcome to 2 hours of stateside stories about America's favorite invention, the automobile. Today is Independence Day, and the car has always been seen by us Americans as a symbol of personal independence and freedom. But somehow the American automobile developed in its own peculiar way. Bigger, brasher, basically more over the top than European counterparts, lifestyles and motoring activities reflected the vehicles that were driven. Tonight, meet the owners of the Hummer, heavyweight star of the Gulf War and now of the shopping mall parking lot. The girl who's flying high over those LA jams, the van customizers who make sure you don't recognize the original vehicle at all, and how our own Nikki Fox burnt the most rubber at the drag strip. First, let's get those autos bouncing.
Well, we're supposed to get some rain out of this new storm.
Southern California, where only a tropical rainstorm can cool car fever. But with sun and surf restored, out come the lowriders. These are custom cars with a difference. Strengthen the chassis, fill the boot with expensive airplane hydraulics, add control switches to the dash, and you're dancing. So what's the turn on?
Playing with the hydraulics was really fun. Finding another car in the street that was cruising by, ready to hit the switch, you know, that's the fun. It's more competition-like thing, you know, with friends. You know, it's really friendly. You meet a lot of people.
And of course you say, hey, look at me, don't you?
Yeah, it's the attention getter. There you go.
Lowriders began in the 1930s when custom car builders reduced ground clearance to improve handling and found it looked cool. The jumping idea came when show cars began to use variable height suspension to help get them on and off the trailers that carried them to competitions.
I bought this car about 5 years ago. It started out as a lowrider. I put the hydraulics in it. It was wide at the time. Needed more attention, so I cut the top off the car to give it the convertible look. It's got a replaceable top that goes on there also.
You just put a couple of swivel chairs in there, obviously, yes,
to get in and out. Yeah.
Television, bottle
TV.
of wine. Hey, you can't beat it. Let's have a look at the front end.
Okay.
And the detail, even on the wheel arches, is something special there, isn't it? Look at that.
Yeah, a fellow by the name of Jack Hernandez. We were preparing for a show just last year. Painted all the graphics, the candy colors, and the mural inside the four-wheel wells, all four wheels.
Is this a champion car then?
It's number 3 in the world. My competition has been tough.
By the way, that gold plating effect is real gold plate. So what's the price tag?
I've had this car apart, I'd say about 4 times during the show circuits, and last calculation came out to about a little more than $50,000 on this car.
Is it worth it?
I've got my rewards from it, yes. I've won a few shows, collected some money. It's more the fun of competition. Competition is really the fun part.
And the will to win produces unusual artwork. The pretty girls seem to go hand in hand with these cars. Every time you see a photograph in a magazine of a lowrider or a car like this, there's a pretty girl sitting on the hood or the bonnet, isn't there?
Yeah.
What's the connection? Just had a bit of glamour, perhaps?
It adds a touch, you know, to the car. A pretty girl always enhances the car when you stand there next to it, you know.
And more than that, he wouldn't say, while the cars danced on.
But first, every few months, Southern California's car enthusiasts converge on the town of Pomona. They're there for what Americans call a swap meet. But this isn't your common or garden auto jumble. 70,000 people, 12 miles of motors, it's California car heaven. This car heaven is all things to all people. For the buyer, a chance to pick up a 450 horsepower hot rod at a bargain price. For the seller, an opportunity to raise cash from a garage load of junk. For the exhibitionist, a chance for some serious showing off. And for the idle, some of the best people watching in California. With California still in recession, it's a buyer's market at Pomona. One after the other, for sale signs declare a willingness to accept the day's best offer. And it's a long day for sellers.
When you show a vehicle, this is what they want to see. They want to see the whole vehicle and what's been done to it. This is how I show off what I've done to it and stuff. There's over $50,000 in, you know, work done to the truck. $30,000 is, you know, that's not a bad price to ask for a truck that's got $50,000 worth of stuff into it.
So why are you losing $20,000?
I'm losing $20,000 on this, just because I feel that, you know, it's a bad time right now. It's a bad market. I want to sell it and I want to move on to other things. So I'm willing to take a loss.
A lavatory for the Winnebago, a back seat for the Coupe de Ville, or an ashtray for a '66 Mustang. You'll find them here, or you won't find them at all.
I could probably go about 200 bucks. Bottom line would be 200 bucks.
That's for a 64.
Yeah, 63 to 67 are all the same. Right and left, 200 bucks now. Takes them home.
Armrest.
Armrest for the pair, $40.
David, how's business today?
Business is really good. I'm very happy for the weather. It's beautiful out here. I've got a really good corner spot. I've got good traffic. And I normally bring some nice junk.
What sells really well here?
Well, it's all Corvette stuff, and it's the earlier, the harder to find, that's what sells. The more rare, the more hard to find, just stuff that's been discontinued for years.
So where do you find it?
I find it in people's garages, and I find it in junkyards, and I find it just a little bit everywhere.
Do you think people buy the stuff for actual use, or do people tend to gather up stuff and put it in their own garage, then you come and find it again and it gets recycled?
Yes, it is definitely a big cycling thing, because I sell a lot of stuff to other vendors, and then I see them again at another swap meet selling my stuff. And I often wonder if it ever ends up on somebody's car.
And out along the miles of aisles, there are lots of pet projects that people never quite got round to. On swap meet day, Pomona's centre aisle becomes busier than many a British high street, as dinky novelties vie for attention with big muscle street cred. After a few hours of beer, barbecue and buying, there's a trail of serious goodies heading for the car park. Did you get here very early?
Yeah, 6 o'clock.
Oh, that's before it was light.
My feet hurt.
So is this something from today?
Yes, yes.
And what's it going to go into?
It's going to go in my 62 Impala.
Whoa,
Oh,
very
yeah.
nice.
Big time, huh?
Yeah. Is it really going to go in there, or
Oh,
is it
yeah.
going to go in a...
No, it's really going in. First floor.
Great. Well, have fun putting it all together.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
What are the prices like? Did you get a good deal?
Yeah, pretty good. This one was, I think, 20. This one was 15. Then the hood was 20.
Oh, it's not bad. Not bad.
So all in all, I spent about, I'd say about 150.
Yeah. Did you have to shop around a lot to find what you wanted?
Well, for the hood and the two fenders were at the same place,
Uh-huh.
and those two were at the same. Then I got like a mirror and stuff.
Do you come here often?
No, it's my first time.
Why don't you just roll them?
We don't want to scratch them.
All right. What's they going to go on?
El Camino.
68 El Camino.
Are you happy to be here today? Would you kind of just get dragged along to carry?
Yeah, to carry, right?
Not your idea of a fun day out?
No, it's fun.
Oh, good.
It's fun.
As long as they give you a nice cold beer at the end.
Yeah, or something else.
When asked what? It's a family show.
Traffic's getting heavier all the time, and there are more and more laws brought in to cope with it. Here in California, they've been dealing with things like 14-lane superhighways for years. To find out how we may end up policing our highways, I've joined the Dawn Patrol of CHIPS, Californian Highway Patrol, and this is the briefing.
Okay. Necco is 5-2 Mary, Titano is 10 Mary, Butler is 6-2 Mary, Canaan is 70
I've not
Mary.
got a clue what's going on here, but it makes sense to
Okay,
Officer
training
Gary
scenario.
Oldenburg, who's volunteered to take me around his 100-mile beat. His main weapon is the ticket, though he packs an automatic pistol and rides with a pump-action shotgun. It's the traffic citations that most Angelenos fear, however. and they can get one for a bewildering array of offences. But breaking a driving law here can allow a unique punishment option. Traffic school.
When you reach a corner with no stoplight at the same time...
Offenders are sentenced to 8 hours of night classes, relearning how to behave on the roads. But this is education with a difference. It's a comedy traffic school. So teacher Mike Muffins explains what to do when encountering a UFO at night.
Don't go into the light. Okay. Now, there was something painted on the pavement. You said, well, what does that say? It says, no bozos, okay? Each of us must read this and determine whether or not this applies to us as a driver. I personally throw on the brakes. Yeah!
Why are you here?
What did I do wrong, you mean? I ran a stop sign. I did a California roll.
What's that?
It's where you don't quite come to a complete stop at a stop sign.
But there are much worse things happening out on the freeways.
Yes, we get a lot of reports of people throwing things at other cars. We get reports of accidents that were caused because one person was swerving at another because somebody upset them. We even go as far as getting people pointing guns at other people and actually shooting people because they're upset of an incident that happened on the highway.
My favorite one, before I became a teacher, was throwing the golf balls out the sunroof. You know, it leaves those dings. You know, how many of you like to do that? That's wrong. They told me that was wrong and that I should not teach that.
I went to traffic school once before, and it was an ex-cop. And he wasn't funny at all, so that 8 hours in his class was, really hard to take.
Mike Muffins has attempted to re-educate some difficult offenders.
He first promised that he would always shoot straight up in the air from now on. And I said, that's wrong. You don't know that's wrong? He said, what's wrong with that? There's nobody up there. I said, well, first of all, there might be somebody up there. We haven't determined that yet. But let's not get metaphysical. I said, what about the bullet coming down and killing people? He said, it'll do that? I mean, I just really educated him. But, the bullet will come down. I said, yeah, it comes down and kills people. So he said, oh, boy, he promised me that he would not do that anymore. And I gave him a certificate.
Gary practices with his sidearm but hasn't ever had to use it on duty. He's waved it from time to stop a fleeing freeway felon, but most of the time it's his ballpoint that's unholstered. And he's merciless with it. Now, as in any city, Gary, there's a lot of very pretty young ladies driving cars. Do they get away with things?
I have a little motto, and I've heard a lot of the other guys talk the same way. We don't give the pretty ones a break. In fact, I don't like to give people a break if I stopped them anyway, but we don't give the pretty ones a break because we feel that they've been getting breaks all their lives.
I have bad luck with police officers. They don't believe my tears.
And so how many times have you been to traffic school?
This is my third time.
And I said, I see. Clearly, he wants this space. Why? I may never know. Put my blinker on, I move over, and he comes to, right behind me, and snuggles up a little bit. And I became angry. At that point, there was a mean Mr. Muffins and a good Mr. Muffins that popped up. Okay, get the golf balls. No. I said, no, I owe this to my students. I felt that in my heart. And I said, I'm going to do what they told me to do, take my foot up off the gas, become less fun to be behind. And I did. And he hit me with those lights. The lights where you can see your bones projected onto your clothes. Ha! You can cream him now! No! I said, all right, took my foot up off the gas. It was at that point that I did something I shouldn't have done. Now, no. If I tell you, promise me you won't do it? No, it's my favorite thing. As he went by, I did this. But he almost had a stroke. I watched his blood pressure go up. He went, that means I'm a total moron. I never even knew he was there. He wasted 5 minutes on me. He was humiliated in front of all of his friends.
I just think it's the biggest waste of human resources there are to have people sit around for 8 hours and not learn anything.
And you'd like Mr. Muffins to hurry it along a bit?
I'd like this whole nightmare to be over and done with so I can go out and break some more speeding laws, I think.
They can run, but they can't hide. Gary and his fellow CHIPS officers will patiently write out tickets as fast as they can pull the offenders over. And in Southern California, that's going to take a lot of tickets.
After the break here on USA Motors Night, those gull-wing classics for Mr. DeLorean, and why the Harley Davidson is the two-wheeled American dream. Stay with us. This is USA Motors Night here on Men and Motors. Have you ever wondered why some people buy cars far too big for practicality? In the States, nothing's too big, not even the mighty Hummer.
Southern California, where they love unusual cars. And in this, the richest state of the United States of America, they love a genuine hero. So when a four-wheeled hero emerged from the Gulf War, Californians took it to their heart. This is the high-performance military vehicle, or HMV, called the Humvee by American troops. But now there's a civilian version, the Hummer. Now, has it gone soft for the domestic market? You've driven both vehicles now. This is really just the soft version, isn't it?
This is, I wouldn't say soft. I would say this is definitely the pampered version, though. Because if you put me back in the military today and having driven one of these and then going back to driving the other, as far as where I could take them both the same places. But I'd rather be in this one because, I mean, I got your bucket seats and CD player and the air conditioning.
All the features of an American family saloon, in fact, but there's more to the Hummer than that.
Well, let's start from the top, shall we? All right, let's go on inside and take a look here. This vehicle is the King of Desert Storm. It has a very large engine. It's classified as a Class 3 truck. What does that mean for you? Well, it simply means if you ever wanted to tow anything, including 2 more trucks, you can tow them. It's not necessarily made to go commuting from work back and forth. It's a vehicle that's really identifiable only to you as an individual. It's off-road. It's very easy to drive. It doesn't look like it's easy to drive, but it's extremely easy to drive. And the one thing about it a lot of people like is most people gawk when they see this. Now, do you see that little black button right there?
Yep.
All right, that's called a tire selector. It's a part of our system called a CTIS, which is a Central Tire Inflation System. That CTI, once you turn it on, the wheels can deflate to 10 pounds of pressure, to 35 pounds of pressure, all 4 wheels or just 2, and you can just breeze right over soft sand. Something else, Land Rovers, Jeeps, all of them are made for off-road, right? 4x, right? No way. This is a 4x. A Land Rover can't climb a 70-degree grade like this can. Though it's not indicated we're supposed to do that, it can. It can go sideways on a slope 40 degrees. Most vehicles can't do that. This vehicle can stop from a dead stop, can climb a wall about this tall, which is at least 22 inches, okay? Dead stop, flat wall, straight up, right over it, like a piece of pancake, okay? That's one of the things that I like about this vehicle, and that's one of the things you're gonna love about it. The clearance onto this vehicle is unlike anything you've ever seen on a passenger vehicle. Why is this thing even available for passengers? Because people like Arnold Schwarzenegger saw them, couldn't believe that they actually can drive on our roads instead of in a battle somewhere, and fell in love with it, and now people like you can get them.
What kind of people are buying these vehicles?
Rich people. I'd say we've got 3 or 4 of them have been ranchers. They own citrus farms in the area, and they want to, you know, they grow the oranges and avocados on hillsides now because all the valley land was taken up with homes. So they, you know, they want to be able to get up that mountain in the winter in the mud. I think that's probably been our #1 customer so far.
We've brought our travelers' checks with us. How much will you take from us for one of your Hummers?
Well, they start at $43,000. They go up to about $66,000. That's U.S. dollars, by the way. You know, it's not that much in pounds. But I'd say the average price so far has been about $58,000.
Military technology doesn't come cheap. The Hummer is still largely an executive toy, but not one that every executive wants to drive, because Gulf War Commanding Officer General Stormin' Norman Schwarzkopf didn't use one. He drove a Range Rover.
Twilight's last gleaming, and the DeLoreans come out to play in Southern California. This is the car that became a time machine in the movies, but they're lasting so long it looks like they'll all get back to the future. And day or night, they'll still be as alike as peas in a pod. David, which one's yours?
Let's see, the silver one.
Yeah.
Yes.
I hope you'll have different keys.
You know, I never thought of that. We may all be able to start each other's car. That's a good thought. But no, they're very much alike, but very different. For example, my car has over 200,000 miles on it. I drive it every day. Others, of course, they've stored them, and they're similar to coming off the assembly line, so there's quite a difference in them. I can't believe what a good car it is. John DeLorean said he's going to build a car that'll last a lifetime, and I think it probably will. Maybe they'll bury me in the thing.
However good the car, it still needs some spares. So the owner of the world's largest DeLorean service centre isn't too unhappy about the car's long life. These cars look in very good condition, and I hear they're durable, but how durable is durable?
Well, actually, we have many cars with us here today with over 100,000 miles on them. One on the end has about 220,000 miles. The one next to us here has about 165, 170,000, and some in between there and a bit below.
So if they're so strong, do they bring you much business as far as servicing goes?
Servicing is remarkable. The servicing is done on the ones that aren't used very much. If they're used, they seem to run well. If they're not used, they seem to be a little pooped sometimes.
What about replacement panels? Because this brushed steel is quite unique, isn't it?
It's unique, but there are plenty of panels available if necessary. But most of the time, they don't have to be replaced.
Okay, you're selling me gradually. How much would a DeLorean, I mean, do people sell them ever? Are they hard to pick up?
They do. But actually, a good DeLorean in good condition today, a nice one, runs about what they sold for 10, 12 years ago, $22,500 to $27,500. In about 5 years, we see them approaching $45,000 to $50,000, and in 7 to 10 years, $75,000 to $100,000.
So you're hanging on to yours, I guess?
Absolutely.
The DeLorean Owners Association is an impressively well-organised group whose members share more than a car in common.
In the years that we've had the association, which is going on 11 years now, and as membership director, I've come to know a lot of the people who have bought the car, and they say what their occupations are. And we always find that there's some common denominator with these people, and I boiled it down years ago that we call them risk takers. They either like to fly airplanes, ride motorcycles, scuba dive, hang glide, parachute, and some of them even jump in bungee cords. Past 11 years, our membership has grown from 7 people in Los Angeles to 4,400 people around the world. But they all share this one thing: they're not afraid to take a risk, and they enjoy this automobile. Wow. And when you sit in here and close these doors up, it's quite a bit like having a airplane around you. You don't have the wings, but it'll fly.
Well, you nearly have the wings when they're
Well,
up.
we do when the doors are up, and we parade with the doors up.
Oh, wonderful.
When we do our parades, and we're invited to parades all over the states for various events. And when we're driving in a very low speed mode with the doors up, the crowd loves it. The Back to the Future movie has just immortalized this car. Every young lad in the world knows what a DeLorean is. And when you're driving down the freeway and you sense somebody's on your blind side, and you turn around, you look, and sure enough, here's somebody going down the freeway at 70 miles an hour, and somebody in the back's shooting pictures of the car. The DeLorean is well loved.
A good old-fashioned American motorcycle gang? Nope, Harley Davidson riders have gone way upscale, and there's not as many naked ladies in them there motorcycle magazines.
The average Harley owner now is more of a professional, more of an upscale person. They don't necessarily need to be spoon-fed pictures of motorcycles with girls. If you're going to show a custom Harley, you want to show a custom Harley. Show why you're showing the motorcycle. To stand a girl with a bikini and high heels behind that motorcycle is insulting to their intelligence as to why they picked up a motorcycle magazine in the first place.
So, California's biggest Harley store finds the new socially acceptable Harley owner more likely to be making movies than busting up a bar.
You know, we deal with the Schwarzeneggers and the Stallones and Bruce Springsteen, for one. He just likes to be dealt with like a normal individual, and that's how I look at everybody that comes in the store. I treat them all the same, no matter, you know, who you are. Harley Davidson is pretty extensive in the lines that they have. For instance, the Sportster class, you have 4 or 5 different models. Get into your Softail class, again, 4 or 5 different models. Then you get into the big touring bikes, and there also you have about 4 or 5 different models. So us at Bartels, we do sell every different type of model that Harley has out.
What do people end up paying
Reality,
when they put everything on it that they like?
I mean, if we're talking reality and you want to do something like a super custom, I've seen people pay up to $45,000, $50,000 for a motorcycle.
So anywhere from 10 to 40,000, with maybe 15 to 20,000 being average for most people.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Now, a lot of them, you were telling me, immediately as soon as they buy the motorcycle, go into your department store. How many of those customers stick around the shop to buy aftermarket equipment, clothes, upgrades to the bike?
Oh, I would have to say at least 85, 90%.
That many?
Yeah. When you buy the motorcycle, it's like buying a suit. You know, you can't just walk in to Neiman Marcus or somewhere and buy a suit and not buy the shoes and the tie to go with it. It's something that when you buy a motorcycle like a Harley Davidson, you want to accessorize it, and I'd say 90% of people come back, are return customers, to buy parts to customize the motorcycle.
This particular motorcycle is an example of someone being passionate about their motorcycle. They took the time to take a stock motorcycle, strip the paint off it, take it down to bare metal, put a lacquer over it, and make steel plate trim pieces for their motorcycle. This is the involvement that people have in the motorcycle.
So this person made these steel plates themselves, did not buy it from
This is
Harley
not
Davidson.
from a store.
Okay.
This is absolutely everything on this motorcycle that you see in steel plate was one person's idea on how to make his Harley stand out in a crowd.
In the old days, it was the riders who stood out. Now, if you look carefully, and thankfully, there's one or two who still stand out.
When I got back from Vietnam, I was, to say it mildly, a little crazy. So the first thing I did is I started riding with a club of questionable character, and for the next 10 years, I was an animal on a motorcycle, is what I was. And then when I was 32 years old, I cleaned up, and for the last 20 years, I have been riding Harleys without alcohol and drugs, and without associating with those people. I run around with some people that are just genuinely good people. I go to Bartels Harley shop, and they just got to be the nicest people I've ever met. And the people I run around with are all family people. Some of them are a little crazy, but that's just part of life.
Yeah, American bikers have mellowed out. These days, they're called rubbies, rich urban bikers.
This is actually the only bike that I've ever owned, but my great-grandmother rode a Harley in 1916. I think that kind of started the whole, women in our generation, in our family, to being stronger and independent, I ride with about 6 or 7 girls now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
All Harleys?
All Harleys, yeah, all Harley Davidsons. And women ride different than men do. I think they're a little more nurturing. I think that they don't want to leave anybody behind, and we all keep track of each other, and men tend to kind of just go for it, all the time.
Do you notice any difference in any different parts of the country, how people greet you when you show up in a leather vest and on a Harley Davidson?
It's really, lately, it's been getting where they accept it. It's really accepted. Motorcycle people are really accepted because they're realizing that we're not all outlaws. That's only 1% of society is the outlaws. And I might look like one, but I'm the nicest guy in town. I got 2 toy poodles.
Riding in, Steve? I've never known anything like it.
It's a 32 Ford Highboy with a 525 cubic inch Keith Black.
Uh-huh.
This is actually a dragster motor. It's a top fuel motor that's been detuned for the street.
Yeah.
It makes about 1,000 horsepower.
Well, that's detuned. And some of this styling is very distinctive.
Yes, it has it completely digital, and the car's capable of about 200 miles an hour. And we think it would run the quarter in about 750s. Maybe
Really?
130 or 40.
That's faster than I've ever done.
Well,
Can we go and try it now?
Well, the car would easily run 150, 160.
Really?
Just real quick on the freeway.
Yeah. What year's your Corvette?
It's a 1960.
And how long have you had it?
I've had it 25 years.
Loved and looked after and nurtured all that time?
Part of the family.
It's a 1954 two-door ranch wagon.
started out as a Mustang engine. It's been bored out to a 302 with large cam, a racing cam if I wanted to race, but it's obviously too heavy a car to race.
And a little elderly. Many cruisers were Grandad's first car.
Forrest, this is one pretty Mustang, but what's so special about it?
Well, it's a GT. They made a limited number of GTs in 1966. And
how long have you had it?
My son bought it when he was 16, and we've had it in the family ever since.
Rick, with amazing paintwork like this, you must be really worried about people sideswiping you, mustn't you?
Oh yeah, it draws attention. People get too close to the cars you're driving on the road. In fact, it even tracks cars without drivers. Got rear-ended one time with a car that didn't have a driver in it. Somebody got out of the car, left the car in gear, and it took off and hit my car.
Lots of gobsmacking cars, and every time I turned my back, another one drove up. What is this?
This is a Dodge.
Yeah, but there's Dodges and Dodges.
1934 Dodge. It's a 5-window that was made into a roadster. As far as I know, it's the only one around.
And what's this very much polished large lump at the front?
That's a 671 blower. It's got 2 carburetors and it's pushing about 500 horses.
Regular cruises don't happen by accident, and this cruise was the brainchild of one person.
Something I've always loved is the 50s, so it's something I decided to try, and with that, it was a very slow start, getting the cars to come out. Before you knew it, I had everybody coming out. One told another, another told another, and it grew into something very big for me, which has gone beyond all belief for me.
Now Rich plays host to unbelievable cars prepared with incredible care by loving enthusiasts.
Well, this wood looks as though it's been restored more than once or twice. What kind of problems does that give you?
A lot of problems. It dries out. Water. You don't like wood. Don't like water unless it's real varnished.
Termites?
Termites I don't like to talk about, but I have had my problems.
Oh dear. Yeah. And Little Bird told me you've had a couple of other problems with this car too.
Yeah, tried to run over me here a couple of months ago.
What did you do to it to make it do that?
Well, I'm building another car, so my friends keep saying that I'm bringing this new car into the garage, and she doesn't like it no more. I told her, I said, I'll never get rid of her, so I'll always have her.
And it'll always be cruise night somewhere. Right across America, there are hundreds of cruises every night. All it takes is a bright idea, a big car park, nice people with gorgeous cars, and lots of lovely weather.
Wilshire Boulevard, a second-hand car showroom. But this is Beverly Hills, where million-dollar cars change hands routinely. And since last year's Los Angeles riots, upmarket owners have been trading down. So Checkered Flag's English owner puts his collectibles up front, and the rollers get relegated. How many cars in this showroom are worth in excess of $500,000?
Oh, at the moment, probably 25% of the cars in here.
This car you're leaning on now, I know it's a Cadillac, and that's all I know about it. Who's going to buy this?
It'll be a guy who's interested in American coachwork and American engineering. It's one of the best examples of American engineering, having a V16 engine in it. And also the coachwork is very, very pretty and well sought after.
So you don't fall in love with any of these marvellous vehicles? They're just items for profit then for you?
Yes, I do love them, of course, because I mean something like the Alfa Romeo sitting over here, I mean anybody who looks at it has got to say that is a beautiful car, especially when you look at the Alfa Romeos they're producing nowadays.
How important is it in your mind that cars are used for the purpose for which they were built? For instance, that classic over there, the blue one.
Well, that is actually a great example of a car that is still used today for what it was built for. It's been entered in, I think, 3 Mille Miglias, which is a classic Italian race. And the guy who's now buying it off us again is going to take it back there next year, 94, and race it there again. And I mean, there's a car from the 30s till today still doing the same thing it was designed and built for.
How do you do your research?
We have our own library of books and information that we keep on the premises here because we found in the past that if we contacted people to find out this information, next thing we know the car we were looking at was sold to somebody else, you know, probably the guy we'd asked the information.
Well, this is Beverly Hills after all. If you've got the dollars, they'll buy anything here, right down to someone to park the car for you. Valet parking it's called, and handling Hollywood's luxury cars is the job's summit. At the Peninsula Hotel in Beverly Hills, that pays 200 quid a day in tips alone, because here, each night, they make and break movie deals while someone else parks the limo. It's a wet Friday night, it's very busy, you must get fed up with it. You must get fed up with people, all this money coming in, and you're just a servant to them, you're a slave to them.
It's all fun because you're meeting and communicating and reacting with all the people. So the communication and being interactive with all the different kinds of caliber of people is great fun.
And of course you can go home and say, hey, I drove Clint Eastwood's car.
That has happened, yeah. We've driven about everybody's car,
Right.
It seems like. This is a new hotspot for the rich and famous.
The Peninsula is home to LA's top power bar, so the staff really do rub shoulders with the stars.
Get to know them as friends. It's
really? You get to know big film stars as friends?
Yeah, they know you by the first name basis. Hi Steve, how you doing today? You know, welcome back. How are you today, Mr. Bowie, or whoever it's going to be?
Does that give you a big thrill?
Sure. Oh, it's always exciting.
You've driven nearly every single car on the road. What car would you choose?
I'm a fan of a Porsche 911, those Carreras, or Mercedes SELs or SEs. I don't quite know the model number, but they're all great. We become a master of parking after a while in this business. You tend to be able to find any spot in the street and you'll get into it alrighty.
What car do you drive, Steve?
I drive actually a van and a mini truck. I own 2 cars. The van I use for my dog and other aspects of camping or whatever, in the truck for business, fuel efficiency. I know I run the stones and artwork in my truck.
Tinseltown's inhabitants are noted for uninhibited behaviour, and that doesn't stop in the car. Any of your guys get up to any naughty business in someone else's car?
It's happened. We've been accused of it, but you know, to each their own. I can say no, but I don't know what they do. You know, they're in the car about 5 minutes by themselves. They can snoop around or find, but you know, hopefully not. Try not to allow that in their policies. But
how would you sum up the job then?
The job basically is great fun. It's a lot of hustling. You know, there's times where it's frustrating. You got to stand aside and take a deep breath because you have a line of cars. You got to get them all out. But basically, the job in general and overall view is very fun. Just in the communication, being with people, and camaraderie of the guys in the hotel business. Very service oriented. All positive aspects of life. You know, but then you deal with the negative aspects also, of maybe a fender bender or luggage that took too long to get out of the car or something of that nature. But the whole job in general is very fun.
A happy man in somebody else's Merc. And as dawn breaks, still the limos roll in.
I can't believe that in the UK you guys still park your own cars at restaurants. After the break, how to put real muscle in a meek-looking car, and how to go mud bogging and try to keep clean. Stay tuned to USA Motors Night.
Carlsbad, California, and a private collection of American muscle cars. As an icon of the late 60s, muscle cars vie with kipper ties and flared trousers, and the formula for these cars was just as subtle.
It didn't take an awful lot of creative thought to suggest the idea of what would happen if we called on kind of an old hot rodders trick and stuffed a big engine, a 6 or a 7 liter engine, into a smaller car.
There was one snag. General Motors said light bodies shouldn't have big engines. Jim, however, was undeterred.
We were working with a 389 cubic inch or a 6.5 liter engine, which produced a significant more torque, significant more horsepower, and obviously significant more performance.
To name their first muscle car, Pontiac looked to Italy for inspiration.
Gran Turismo Omologato. Pontiac kind of thought that was a nifty little moniker, kind of a neat way to say that here was a car that enjoyed a lot of race car characteristics, a big engine and a smaller car, and yet it was put together with a car that was drivable, streetable, and said, why not? They finally agreed to build 5,000 of them, which at that time really was not a very significant number. They ended up in the 1964 model year selling over 31,000 of them and could very easily have sold 62,000 of them if they had been able to build them.
The Pontiac GTO spawned other wildly overpowered monsters. They weren't too hot on the bends, the braking was more eventual than now, but there was still only one design rule: go completely over the top and then a lot further. And still lighter bodies ushered in the pony car.
By putting the same lineup of engines that were offered on the muscle cars into that pony car concept, where the car was 200 and 300 and 400 pounds lighter, we ran into still another restriction from the General Motors Corporation, the parent corporation, by having a car with too much power.
Even then, Jim and the Pontiac rebels found a way round GM's caution.
By putting the same engine in the car with lighter weight, we put a throttle stop on the accelerator linkage so that it prevented the car from getting a full throttle opening setting. It took them usually between 30 seconds and a minute to remove it. It was simply a little clip that you grabbed hold of and pulled right off, and that enabled the throttle linkage to go to its maximum length, and that gave you full throttle.
But by 1973, the end was in sight for gas-guzzling muscle.
The nail in the coffin was really the first energy crisis that we had, which occurred late in 1973, which really made it almost unpatriotic to be driving cars that were so-called gas guzzlers.
Jim now collects muscle, but his everyday Chevy doesn't break the habits of a lifetime.
Well, as a matter of fact, you know, this has got double overhead cam and 4 valves, and it's a pretty sophisticated thing, but there's always the great equalizer. The great equalizer in the form of nitrous oxide.
Anaheim, Southern California, and the home of Boyd Coddington's Hot Rod Factory, where they rarely work to a budget or a timetable. Quality overrides all other considerations here, and the bottom line is a customer's blank check. The king of custom cars took time off to talk to the motor show.
And if I arrive here as a customer, what's the procedure?
Well, I'd bring you in and show you the whole shop and talk to you and kind of pick your brain a little bit to see what you really like, and then go and figure out what you want. Then we do some rough sketches and figure out what kind of car, and then actually go to a full size, not a full size rendering, but about a 5th scale rendering of what the car would look like. And then if you like that, and then you accepted that, then we'd have Chip, our designer, actually do a clay model and work off of it from there. If it was a real exotic car like the 37 Roadstar we're doing.
Do you regard yourself as an artist?
Yeah, to a certain extent. Yeah, I think that it's an art form, and we're doing things in that form. But sometimes I don't like to be called an artist, you know. But I'd have to say we're in that family. Yes.
What is the average time scale from this to the finished product?
Most of the time, we takes a year and a half. On some of the projects we do, like with some of the magazines, we get deadlines for the covers and stuff like that. Shazam was about a 6-month project, and Billy Gibbons' car was about a 6-month project.
Must be very impressive to work here and see top celebrities coming through the doors.
Yeah, I think sometimes that's the top celebrities mean something to everybody, but you know, we base our whole business off of the common people too. But the celebrities we did work for, like the Beach Boys. Al Jardine, we built Woody in a Deuce Coupe for him, and Billy Gibbons from the ZZ Top, you know, and of course Joe Rudke, who owns Mr. Gasket. And the other interesting project we're going to work on is not hot rod related, but it's we're going to do a guitar for Jeff Beck, and just because we're so familiar with doing aluminum milling and stuff like that, we decided we'd like to build a guitar for somebody, so we decided to do it for him because he loved hot rods so much. Most of our customers, almost 100% of them, take the cars and drive them, but they also like to just have them in their garage where they can look at them and admire them and stuff. It is like a piece of art, some of the stuff, but we also like to let everybody know that our cars are very drivable.
What's the Shazam like to drive?
Shizum is like driving a new Corvette. It's got the LT1 motor and all that stuff. Would you like to go take a ride in it?
Love to.
Okay.
Sunday morning in Vista, California, and a scene you'd be unlikely to come across in rural England. The whole town's been closed off to make way for off-road day, and some of the weirdest machines I've ever seen either on or off the road.
In Southern California, the automobile's so close to people's hearts that the whole family, in fact the whole town, turns out for an event like this. Our nearest equivalent would be the village fair or the church fete. But when it comes to being California car crazy, we Brits have a long way to go.
All the way to California, anyway. When it comes to wacky, we may be no match for the locals, but for people watchers on holiday, I reckon this is a cheaper and more fascinating day out than a theme park. In fact, for motor buffs everywhere, it can be quite an education.
Off-roading here isn't just 4x4s in a field, it's rock buggies, swamp buggies, dune buggies, sandrails, quad bikes, midget racers and monster trucks. The only thing that isn't here is a muddy Land Rover.
There was one all-American muddy Jeep though.
What does mud bog competition
Mud
involve?
bog is just nothing but high torque and mud, and if you can get whoever gets through the mud the fastest, they're the winner.
Where have you been in this? Out in the desert near here?
They hit like every mud puddle I could from here till the show. If you see them shiny, you know, that's not the way Jeep was made. Jeep didn't, it stands for dirt, mud.
Others would disagree. The paint jobs on some of the machinery would have been wasted under all that mud and slime.
Gary, these quads are beautiful. How long did it take to build one?
This one here took about 30 days.
And what was the money involved?
This one here with the big motor is about $9,000 in US dollars. They bring me a bike brand new or used, take it all the way down, take every nut and bolt off, chrome every nut and bolt, powder paint the frame, the plastics, build the motor, big motor. Yeah.
What's the power of the motor and what sort of speed can it do?
About 80 horsepower, and in a quarter mile you can get up to about probably 130, 120 miles an hour.
The hour's almost over, but the Americana fun continues after the break with another hour of Men & Motors USA Motors Night. We'll have weird van customizers changing absolutely everything in sight, and you'll have a grandstand view over the jams of LA very soon.
We're driving a 300 horsepower Mustang Cobra, and we've taken it down here to Long Beach, California. We are on the track where they run the Long Beach Grand Prix IndyCar race every year, right here on city streets. We thought this would be a good place to place a cell call to Jennifer York, who is the Skycam helicopter reporter for Channel 5 in Los Angeles, the same place I work, and ask her about reporting on traffic from 1,000 feet up every day to several million people, and there she is. Yes, we're lucky. Jennifer, thanks for joining us today. Jennifer, a lot of people know that the M6 motorway and the Thelwall Viaduct is a big pain when it comes to traffic. Tell us about traffic right here in Los Angeles.
Heading into downtown is one of the worst areas. The Hollywood Freeway, the Golden State, and also through Orange County, there's some real big traffic jams in one area called the Crush. That's where 3 different freeways merge, and you've got all these different people. In fact, I think there's almost 20 million cars in Southern California alone. And could you imagine all that on just, I think there's about a dozen freeways that 20 million cars have to fit on every day of the week.
Jennifer, I took a ride with you in that helicopter a few days ago. Tell us all about the helicopter. It's a very special one, isn't it?
We fly in an Aerospatiale 350B. It's a big helicopter among helicopters. I know most people think it's kind of small, but among helicopters, it's one of the biggest, and it's really quiet and it's smooth. We have a cameraman who sits behind me, and we have a pilot that pilots it while I'm reporting.
Now, Jennifer, you cover a lot of other stories besides just traffic. You do the fires and the floods and the earthquakes in Southern California.
I think it's a little bit harder because it seems like it's breaking news, and everybody is on the edge of their seats waiting to hear what you have to say. So what you have to say is very important, and the accuracy of what you have to say is very, very important. It's not trivial whatsoever, and you've got everybody kind of listening to you. So I think it's extremely important. It's very intense. But it's crucial to keeping people informed in Los Angeles as to what's going on, because, you know, we're like media hogs here. We love to know. We always listen to the news. We don't have air conditioning in the helicopter, so it gets really hot here. Some of those days, the average heat was 100 degrees outside. Then the heat from the fires, of course, really, really made it hot inside here. I think for me, the hardest was the smoke, not only because it was hard to breathe, but also it made it, you felt like you're flying at night when it was, say, 11 o'clock in the morning, because it was so dark outside because of all the smoke in the air. So it was a pretty traumatic time.
Jennifer, it sounds like serious business, but you're in that helicopter 3 hours every day. You must have some fun up there, right?
Well, some fun things that we do is we peek into people's backyards, and if they're really dirty and filthy, I mean, people collect a lot of junk. We'll zoom in with our West Cam, and we can get really close. I mean, we can see the colors of a baby's bottle in a backyard. We can see the color of someone's underwear hanging on a line.
Tell us how you get such high-quality pictures from the helicopter to the home viewers.
This is what you would normally look like if I looked out my helicopter window, but the capabilities of the West Cam, it's a $300,000 camera from Canada, which is mounted on the outside of our helicopter. Martin, our cameraman, is able to zoom in with the capabilities of the West Cam, and we can actually see, but for the, is it really? You want to show it?
I understand you're on top of an accident scene right now.
Looks like it's a head-on collision here. You can see how many paramedics are on the scene. You can see the color shirt that the person is wearing who's laying on the gurney. And we're able to show you the bumper. You can see just how the front end of the car is damaged. We can see what type of injuries they're suffering. We're able to see how many lanes are blocked if it was on a freeway. This is a surface street accident, but we can even see the policewoman taking the report here. You know what, Steve? I have to go to another story right now, but thanks for calling.
Thanks for joining us.
And hey, don't take the 101. It's really heavy. Stick with the Golden State to get into downtown. Bye.
Whittier Boulevard in East Los Angeles is home to Atlantic Customizing. It doesn't look much to the casual glance, but from here come many of Southern California's customized vans. They're islands of luxury that float gently through the freeway mayhem.
Sonny, how did you decide to get involved with vans? Because it's a big commitment as far as I can see from your van.
It's a big commitment, it is. I used to notice a lot of vans around town. I always thought they were so bulky to handle. And what happened, I got a part-time job working at Los Angeles International Airport. And
well, driving vans?
Driving a van, right. And I was amazed how easy it handled. I was amazed. And I said, well, why don't I look into buying one? And I saw a lot of customized vans already customized, but it didn't have what I wanted for it to be customized. So I met Ray, Atlantic Custom. He's a good friend of mine. We become friends now through the years. And he said, don't buy one already customized. Buy a shell, which means it's just completely nothing in it.
So
and
then
let's
you can do it
build
yourself.
it.
I mean,
There
that's
you
all the
go.
fun, isn't it?
There you go. Then you have it's personalized to what you like.
They have an idea of what they want. They've seen something already, or they have an idea of what they want to come up with in the end, the final product. But in between is up to us. We have to explain to them what's available. We have to show them how things fit, the color schemes, what to go by as far as that goes, and what's available.
With the money, the tax, and everything else, so I don't see a problem with that. I could probably get to you by tomorrow.
I would say a $6,000 package would be well enough to make you very comfortable in your van, and you can add on as you go along. So it's not a dead end. It's something that you carry on.
It could be a lifetime's hobby.
Right. Oh yeah. Never ending. Like they say, these are adult toys.
That's how I started off, just like that. That's a shell. That's a shell.
You're being modest. I mean, must be a prize-winning van. There's a big trophy back there with a van on top. What's that for?
That was the show that I entered last month. It was 24 vans, And what really won my van over was the lights. No one had as many lights as I did.
Have you seen anything else remotely like it?
Not quite, not quite. There are some really nice vans in Southern California, but not quite.
But out there are a few vans even bigger and better than Sonny's. The Motor Show tracked down this national award winner to find out what it took to reach the top. And this is a paint job literally out of this world.
Oh, I've had it since 1977, and been doing little bits to it every chance you get, because it's like the movie The Money Pit.
I was going to say, what have you invested in this?
Well, last estimate was close to $50,000.
So I hope you're going to keep it for a while.
Oh, a couple days anyway. It's gone through 2 different mural changes when we stretched the van in 1988.
Oh, you messed up the pictures.
Yeah, well, we had to add in Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi and keep it the theme.
How do you rate in California?
Oh, this van here is one of the top show vans in California, and it's pretty well known throughout the United States with our van nationals.
Wow, congratulations.
Thank you.
California has sunsets that do their best to show off. But as darkness falls and the lights come on, the state's customized vans try that little bit harder.
Beverly Hills clean out their garages and drive everything they have in the back down to Beverly Hills High School for the charity car show. It could be anything from this $300,000 Tucker, one of 50 ever made, to a car like this, a priceless 1930s Duesenberg driven by William Boyd 60 years ago right here in Beverly Hills. He was the actor who played the cowboy Hopalong Cassidy. Tell us about the car you're showing today.
This is a 37 Ford, and it's been chopped, lowered. It's got a big engine in it. It's a 350 bored out to about 365. So it develops about 500 horsepower, and it's pretty quick.
Now you drive your cars, you don't just leave them in the garage.
No, well, I don't drive the Ferraris as much anymore. Those stay in the garage. And I drive the Hot Rods a lot. Yeah, this I drive all the time. I try to find people I can race on the street with, and then I can always get a ticket.
Now look at this ground clearance on this 1951 Studebaker. Can you imagine driving this over those Pennine Hill roads? Studebaker is very smooth, very contemporary looking, even for a 1951 car. And the new trend in American hot rodding is a mixture of the old and the new, as you can see by using the old dashboard and speedometer and the new switchgear.
This car here is kind of reminiscent of the genesis of hot rodding in 1939. And what we have here is the 40s kind of configuration, ready to go for the Mexican road race. And what made it special was the Bulldog front end, which basically they took the chassis and they Z'd it around the front axle using a stock front axle. And then the Duval windshield, which is kind of reminiscent of a motorboat of the 30s and 40s. And running the exhaust through the frame, through the chassis, so that it wouldn't get tangled in any obstacles in the road running through Mexico.
If it were 40 years ago and it were Beverly Hills and I was a movie star, I might be driving one of these, a dual Ghia. Handcrafted in Italy, 440 Chrysler V8. They made 117 of them, 40 remain. This one was owned by Ava Gardner.
It's roughly, weighs 3,000 pounds, wet with me in it. It's front-wheel drive. It's a small block Chevrolet engine. Puts out about roughly 825 horsepower.
And how does it manage to produce that much power?
Well, we supercharge it with a Vortex supercharger, and we've been 300 miles an hour.
How do you compare this show to others?
No, this is the family sort of show. This is Beverly Hills and its environ, so to speak. And, I'm here because it's close to home.
Tell us about the Packard you're showing here today.
I've had it about 12 years now, and I've driven it across the country to New York, and it goes like the wind. Run rings around any Silver Ghost.
Well, we've run into all sorts of celebrities and stars known all over the world at the Beverly Hills Auto Show. But imagine we ran into someone from Lancaster or something from Lancaster. It's a 1949 Rolls-Royce that was owned by a doctor in Lancaster. It moved to Los Angeles many years ago, has been in many, many movies, including Hook with Robin Williams that came out a couple of years ago. From Lancaster to Beverly Hills.
When I bought this car, I loved it so much I swore I'd never sell it, and I've held up to my promise. I bought it in 1952. That's 44 years ago that I've had this car, and it's never been in storage any of that time. I've driven it all the time.
You know, the people of Beverly Hills love to customize and accessorize their cars and trucks just like anybody else. This is Arnold Schwarzenegger's personal Hummer. Now, I don't know what he's put on the rear axle of this thing, but I have a feeling that somewhere in Beverly Hills there's a bull singing soprano.
Gainesville, Florida, and America's top drag racing school. I'm here to learn from world champion Frank Hawley how to drive the standing quarter mile. And 0 to 60 in 1 second is quite a sobering thought. Some drag racers use the family fortune to climb to the top, but Frank Hawley beat the world with sheer talent.
The gas dragsters we have are, again, not the fastest drag race cars, but they will out-accelerate a Formula One car at least for a quarter of a mile. Top fuel cars that run 300 miles per hour cost well over $100,000 to build. You need to have about $1 million worth of support equipment to go along with that, and it'll cost you another $1 million to run it for a year. On the top fuel dragsters, it's about $5,000 a run, and they run under 5 seconds, so that's about $1,000 a second.
But $1,500 covers 2 days at Frank's school. First lesson, safety.
If you ever had an accident and you stopped and you weren't on fire, what should you do? Jump out of the car?
I'm gonna wait for help.
Stay there, don't move, and wait until the medical people got there to help you.
The steering wheel is a quick release model. Slides on, pull it forward, and click. It's the driver's responsibility to give that thing a tug when they get in the car before they make a run.
Okay, we have camwalk style belts in here. Arm restraints go into the lap belts. Push it in, make sure it clicks.
I think I failed the strapping into it.
These cars are a 2-speed automatic car. It's reverse, neutral, high gear, and first gear. The cars are automatically upshifted. The top toggle switch turns on our cooling fans. When you start the car, make sure you turn that switch on first. When you go to shut the car off, leave that switch on. The bottom one is your ignition and fuel system. And then we have the push button here, which is the actual start.
We're going to ask you to pull forward and look at that groove and line yourself up with the center of the groove. And right here, we're going to have some water on the ground. The water, of course, is so that you can spin the tires in the burnout and get them heated up. We're going to ask you to pull through here nice and slowly. And we want you to do the burnout until the front wheels of the car get even with the second cones. Shift the car into neutral and apply the brake, and you're going to stop somewhere out there about 100 feet. The car doesn't accelerate very fast here. Why? It's spinning the tires. It makes a lot of noise, it vibrates, but it doesn't go very fast. If you do this correctly, you're going to pass these cones here going, I don't know, 20 miles per hour. When you stop, then put the car into reverse and back it up. It's important that you back up in the center of the groove. The most important reason you back up in the center of the groove is that's the cleanest area of the racetrack. There's usually a lot of debris and dust and stuff outside the groove, and you'll stick it all over your tires if you back up crooked.
If 2 miles an hour was proving so hard for us all, what would 160 be like?
Where's the groove?
Terrible.
Where's the groove?
Over there.
Well, why are you over here?
It's a good question. I'm looking for right.
Yeah, a lot. And this is very critical that you're lined up in the best traction area, because this tire over here is going to spin because it's not in the best area. If you sit there again at 900 RPM and go whack with the throttle, it's probably going to quit. So what we need you to do is to press it to the floor. Now, if we get people sometimes and they go, oh, it's like maybe by 3 o'clock or something they'll have it white. That's not what I'm talking about. Now, the fact that you have the button down and the throttle wide open and the engine revving would mean that we would like you to leave soon. Yeah, I mean, you know, today. You're going to drive the car straight down the racetrack. Now, this is important that when the lights come on, you're looking at the tree, and as you take off, you look at the center of your lane a quarter of a mile away.
Finally, a chance to put that massive information into motion on our first launch. It might only have been 100 feet, but I didn't know what breathtaking meant until this moment, the most thrilling of my life.
As you just get this moment of enormous clarity, and it's going in a straight line, and then that's it. I just, oh boy. Let me do it again, now.
But Frank decides who does what and when, so it was cloud 9 to ground 0 as he dissected my performance back in the classroom.
Now, Nikki, give me your report.
I forgot all about the groove. I was remembering everything else, knobs and buttons and so on. Because I wasn't aware of the groove problem then, I felt the burnout went okay, although I'm not quite sure if I opened the throttle fully on that. We've all done a couple of runs now, and everyone agrees that what seemed simple, straightforward and logical in the classroom becomes the hardest thing in the world once the engine's throbbing, your heart's pounding and you're on the line waiting to go.
What do you think the chances are, now that you've done this, that a person that hasn't ever raced before could get into Darrell Gwynn's Top Fuel Dragster and get in there and go out and run 490 on their first run? 0. Would never happen.
The big question is, will I be allowed a crack at the full quarter mile on day 2 at drag school?
Yeah, they've moved me on to the full run now. I'm surprised because of that twitchy foot last time, but let's give it a go.
A lot of motorsports, but especially drag racing, becomes more of a mental sport. There's a lot of things you need to gain control over in your mind, and there's a lot of discipline. There's only a certain way some things can be done and in a certain order. And if you get out of sequence, and if you're not paying attention to one small, minute detail, you can lose a lot of time out there on the racetrack. I've spent my whole life watching people drive drag race cars. I can see a lot of things that they do or hear things that they do, but what the race pack computer printout does is it backs me up, so I don't have to argue with the student. I can say, if you don't want to listen to me, just look at the paper. It's right there.
And this is it, the full quarter. What will that printout reveal about me?
Just as a matter of interest, who went the fastest in the class? Let's see, mile an hour.
141.
141, that's good for that car. Tim?
156.
Brett?
158.6.
158, pretty consistent stuff.
155.
155.
160.19.
160? My goodness. You'd think we did that for the media, wouldn't you?
I've driven less than 2 miles in 2 days. I'm still shaking from the sheer exhilaration. I think I'll be buzzing for weeks. If you're planning a trip to Florida, this place and the thrill of a lifetime is just 2 hours from Orlando.
Beverly Hills
Hills Boulevard and America's most exclusive car accessory shop. Pop in here for car mats for the Porsche, a silver keyring for the Merc, or if you've got $14,000 to spare, a Ferrari pedal car for the kids. Special prices, special products, and special customers.
We have Sylvester Stallone's a customer, and we did recently, about 6 months ago, a big stereo system for him, and that was 348 Ferrari. That's what he's driving right now. And Janet Jackson's a customer, and we did a stereo for her in a new 500 SL. And Lionel Richie's a customer, and he has a 500 SEL Mercedes right now. So it's it's usually the high-end cars that those people are driving, but a lot of them also have Range Rovers and Jeep Cherokees and Ford Explorers as well.
Is Beverly Hills really a place of a high concentration of those sort of people?
Beverly Hills is just really 40,000 people. It's not a gigantic, it really isn't a gigantic city. But there are a lot of people in this area who are in the entertainment business, who are in the music business, movie business, professional people. And there are probably more car enthusiasts in Southern California, not necessarily just Beverly Hills, and probably anywhere in the world. That's probably because the weather is so nice and people can drive their cars all year round, like a day like today. What is it, January, and it's 75 degrees out. So that is, I think, what has attracted a lot of car enthusiasts to Southern California, the fact they can drive their car 12 months a year rather than places in the east or colder climates where they have 2 or 3 months a year where they can drive their car and the rest of it's socked away in the garage.
Now, how many of those baby XJSs and baby Harleys do you sell just before Christmas?
You know, it depends on the price range. The baby XJSs really only sold one of them, but it's $14,000. It's a lot of money. But the Harleys and the smaller Ferrari pedal cars, and there's a Formula One Ferrari that I think we sold out of, and that was $700. We sold quite a few of those.
These are children who are going to be growing up, presumably, to drive the real thing.
You know what it is that it's 90% of the time, it's the father or the mother buying for the kid the same kind of car that the dad has. That's basically what it is.
You're watching USA Motors Night here on Men and Motors. Let's travel now to Las Vegas, where away from the bright lights of the 24-hour casinos, a gem of a motor museum has cars from the famous and the infamous.
Everywhere you look, there's a legend. From the incredible Isotta Franchini to Elvis Presley's gas guzzler. In between, there's Marilyn Monroe's car in mink, and even Howard Hughes' car is out in the open. Behind the candelabra, Liberace. And there's plenty of presidential cars to choose from. We leave it to you to decide whether you prefer the car to its previous owner. There are hundreds of glittering American classic cars, and there's one very special car I've come to see. First, I checked in with the collection's director, ex-auctioneer Hagen Stewart.
The collection was started by the Imperial Palace Hotel and Casino in 1981. We decided to give the opportunity to the public to see some of the antique and classic cars that have been offered throughout the world.
So how many people come through here each year?
We have approximately 2 to 2.5 million per year.
That's quite a number, and you're open very long hours too.
We're open 7 days a week from 9:30 a.m. to 11:30 p.m.
Okay, so what would you say was maybe the most valuable car here?
Probably be hard to say. I've got a Mercedes 500K that's a very rare and unusual car. I've got a couple of Duesenbergs that are probably in excess of $3 million. So it's hard to say the most valuable.
And which are your most favorite?
I'm very favorite is the Duesenberg cars. No one in particular, just the Duesenberg in general.
Why is that?
They were just so far ahead of their time for in the 30s. The engineering of the engine, the transmission, the self-lube oil, just quite a well-built car.
And it's one particular Duesenberg I've come to see, this magnificent 1931 Model J Murphy-bodied Beverly sedan. It appeared at America's exclusive Pebble Beach Concourse event. This car was restored by residents of Indian Springs.
We have 2 restoration shops, one here in Las Vegas itself and then one out at Indian Springs Prison. All the cars are basically completely restored, stripped down, painted, engine mechanical and everything, so that once they come back here they all are in running condition.
And how did you build up the connection with the prison?
It started about 2 years ago. Mr. Richie Klein, the administrator of the collection, got together with the wardens of the prisons and decided it would be a rehabilitation program and a training program for the prisoners and also be benefit to us.
With that one invitation, the prison restoration team have acquired real status.
A gentleman out at the prison did a complete restoration, interior, exterior, and did a beautiful job. We took it to Pebble Beach this year. Also took it to the Auburn Cord show in Auburn, Indiana this year, which it won a prize there. Did a very nice job on it.
How did it do in the concourse competition?
Pebbles Beach, it's such competition up there. We did not place, but it was just a pride that we've got the car in there and it was restored by the prisoners, which was a real special for Richie and I to have that car up there.
Frustrating for them that they couldn't go along, I guess.
Yes, very much so.
A head count in what must be the world's most exclusive car restoration shop. This is the prison at Indian Springs, Nevada, where just 40 of the 1,400 inmates restore million-dollar automobiles for the Imperial Palace collection in nearby Las Vegas. Murderers and bank robbers vie for a job in here. It's hard work, but not traditional hard labor.
All right, back to work. Pronto.
Oh, yes, boss.
People don't really understand how the program works. They think, well, Imperial Palace has just hired inmates to do work at cheap labor. Well, that's not actually the way it works. The way it works is we hire these guys for minimum wage, and all these guys that are working in this shop in here are all saving taxpayers' money on the private industry or private sector side. They pay room and board, they pay meals, they pay for their clothes to be washed. So I think roughly on what they make in a 2-week period, they might bank about $70 of that, and the rest goes out to pay for things. So it's saving taxpayers a lot of money too by this whole. Everybody benefits.
But Dave didn't foresee those benefits when the Imperial Palace asked him to set up the project.
At first, I thought my boss Richie Klein was completely bonkers. I'd been around some prisons in high school, or we went through for tours or whatever. And those are some pretty hardcore prisons. Of course, I had visions of seeing guys standing here, you know, holding the knife to you, and it's not that way at all. I would rather work with guys in here than guys in the street. They seem like they apply themselves more. People ask me, you know, well, what's it like working with these criminals? Well, the only difference between myself, basically, I shouldn't probably say this, but the guys in here, these guys got caught. Some guys, I say that lightly because some guys are in here for real bad crimes. Other guys, you know, they just got caught up in something. They got around the wrong people, were brought up wrong, had no family, and they just need a chance in life. And that's what this program helps to offer, is a chance for them to do something and show people they can do something.
With the experience gained here, there's the chance of a well-paid job outside when parole comes around. Inside, only a hand-picked few get the chance to show what they can do.
So how did you get to be on that original team?
We had an interview. We had to have an interview. You know, we applied for the job, and then Dave had an office set up over at the Far Bay, and he would talk to us and see what we knew and how interested we was in the job, you know. And so by doing that, he took it upon himself to say, well, he sounds interested and he doesn't, you know, and he hired us from that, you know, from the way he interviewed us and what little qualities we had. Yeah. But there's a lot of us, you know, who's appreciate that we did get the job. Yeah. You know, we've learned a lot from him, you know, as far as restoration and just different things in a whole, you know, and it's made my life a lot more easier.
Too, one thing I want to add too is, you know, I was really impressed with the management here. You know, Dave, man, he's you know, he's a little bit, I'd say, far advanced than most any other guys that restore these cars. He's really good. And
he knows what he's doing.
And I figured that I've been taught by the best now.
And the best is only just good enough at Indian Springs. Every car that comes in is carefully taken apart and painstakingly reconstructed. Whatever its needs, the skills are here.
We started out with some real tough cars. They kind of put us through the ringer, myself and the guys in here. But we've graduated now, that's why we're doing a lot of Bentleys, Duesenberg, stuff like that, because the caliber work we've turned out has been pretty good. We've competed in national competition. We had a Duesenberg Beverly that went to Pebble Beach in Auburn, Indiana this last summer, and that's a real big mark.
So even to be allowed to participate is the big thing.
Right. Yeah. Pebble Beach is an invitation type thing. Well, that's not where you can't. It's not like you finish a car and you just go enter it. You have to be asked, you're invited. So it's kind of like that's the Ralph Lauren and different ones like that all have cars in it. So, you know, for the guys out here, it was a big time thing, which it was for me too. It's the first time I actually had a car myself that went to Pebble Beach, you know, like that.
OK, they didn't win, but there's lots of time to work on future entries. This is one workshop where a steady turnover of staff is welcomed.
And what's your plans for the future? When are you going to get out of here?
I got probably maybe about 15, maybe 16 more months to go before I get out here, and hopefully that when I leave here, I hope I got a job downtown at Imperial Palace down there.
All right, good.
You know, that's what I'm hoping for. I mean, things don't always work out the way you want them to, but I'm trying.
Yeah.
And that's all anyone can ask. But it was time to say goodbye to the guys at Indian Springs because, to round off my trip to the Imperial Palace, Dave had promised me a drive in a 1931 J-Class straight-eight Duesenberg. The makers guaranteed it would do over 100 in second gear. Nowadays, it's limited to a sedate turn around the parking lot. After all, there isn't much more you dare to do with a $1 million museum piece.
Yes, electric racing cars. In the States, there are regular meetings where the performance on show leaves the milk float image behind in the dust.
I have an electric race car, Snow White, does 140 to 150 miles an hour. Smoke the tires, you know, up to 80 to 90 miles an hour. And I race the thing in sports car events. They put me in a class where I need to race against formula cars with wings and superchargers. The fastest class there is where they put me in. Take a big block Corvette, the 500-inch Corvette, put a tube chassis in it, 12-inch wide racing slicks, and you'll blow its wheels off. There's no gasoline car street legal that can keep up with it. It's at 60 miles an hour, you hit the throttle, it snaps your neck. It's painful to drive the thing, it's that fast.
What distinguishes electric performance vehicles from the boring sort is the latest technology. And in Silicon Valley, one backstreet laboratory is aiming for pole position.
The controller is what makes the difference between a golf cart and a race car on these electric cars. This one here will do 0 to 60 miles an hour in 3 seconds.
Really?
While this one here is more of an ordinary controller in speed, and it might do 20 seconds or so in an ordinary car.
So is this an ordinary on-the-road electric vehicle?
Actually, it's purely made as a test bed and done a few other things to make it easier for testing, put in a lot of instrumentation. Our main role here is to abuse the components the best we can. We figure if they do not break on this vehicle, then they'll hold up well in an ordinary electric car.
The experiments continue on the street.
This car is a Porsche 914. It has been converted to electric. It has been raced at the Phoenix Solar Electric 500 for about 3 or 4 years in a row and is placed either second or third.
What kind of speeds do you get to?
Well, if you promise not to tell the cops, 95 on Bayshore, 101, and when it was originally built, they had it close to 100. So this one can really move out.
We're It is an acronym. It stands for Women's Electric Racing Education International Team. We're It, and we're all women, and we converted this Rabbit, and it's nicknamed Hopalong, and it's all women built, and it's 10 12-volt batteries, and we raced it in Phoenix in March at the Electric 500, and it's now a commuter car, and it's our special baby.
Californian commitment means that even British classics get the electric treatment.
This car was donated to a local environmental group on the stipulation that it be converted to electric. So that started us on finding out about electric cars and how to put it all together and make one work.
I had been thinking about doing an electric conversion, so I talked to some people and they told me, yeah, it's possible to do it. And being a backyard mechanic, I figured, all right, I'll try.
And I bet you thought you were the only one on the block, didn't you?
Actually, yeah, I thought I might have had something unique here with this one. As it turned out, there was another electric Sunbeam that was actually built before this one, not 8 blocks from where I live.
Mike, there's something strange about this. There are no batteries.
No, this car we decided to put the batteries in the back. You get tired of working around cramped quarters, so we moved them in the back so we had access to all the different components that are in here. For experimental reasons, we like to be able to get in here and play with this car a little bit.
I don't buy gas for this car. That's what you use for this car.
But there are serious electric commuters already committed to seeking the cleaner future that we hope awaits us all. Why did you go electric?
For my kind of driving, which is a lot of short trips during the day and going to work and then from work to meetings, it just made sense to me to use an electric car.
What about speed and range?
The top speed of this particular car is 65 miles an hour. The total range on this car is about 60 miles. It drops a little bit during the winter. If the batteries are cold, you don't get as much range.
So this one was a conversion that you had done?
This one was a conversion that was done for Robin Williams' wife. I found it out on the internet. They actually had 6 cars listed at U.S. Electric Car. So we bought it for $15,000 with 6,700 miles on it.
But of course, electric commuters need electric employees' car parks.
Patty, what does your job involve as part of the commute department?
We have an air quality standard that we have to adhere to, and in that we have to reduce the number of cars and people driving alone to work.
And what are you doing for electric vehicle owners specifically?
For electric vehicle owners, we provide outlets for them to plug into that they can recharge their vehicle during the day.
Electric vehicles come in all shapes and sizes, and most of them represent the essence of sober practicality. But in California, as with most things, if it's worth doing, it's worth going too far.
Electric supermarket trolley racing and light relief for the electric enthusiasts. The only rule, vehicles must still look a bit like the grocery carts they're based on. And don't worry, those flames are just there for effect.
They'll sure beat my local milk float. After the break, how Mr. Saleen pumped the muscles of his Mustangs, and our cameras get a sneak peek at some illegal street racing. All here on USA Motors Night. This is USA Motors Night. The great American automobile has never just been bought and driven the way it was meant to be. If you've got a fast car, you've got to make it faster.
What I wouldn't give to have a real American muscle car. You know, that's why I love America. All your dreams come true. Ask for a muscle car, you get a muscle car. About 30 years ago, a man named Carroll Shelby made a lot of friends and a lot of money by building high-performance versions of the classic Ford Mustang. And today, another man from Southern California, Steve Saleen, is doing the very same thing. Now, this is what all cars should sound like. About 15 years ago, Steve Saleen, a former IndyCar racer and race car engineer, started Saleen Mustang in Southern California. These days, he takes a totally stock Mustang like this one and works all sorts of magic to it, works on convertibles and hardtops alike until he comes up with this 510 horsepower of supercharged V8 monster muscle American style. It's about $60,000, about 40,000 pounds. If you can't afford that, you could get half the power for about half the price in the S281. This is the heart of the top-of-the-line Saleen Mustang, a good old American pushrod V8 5.8-liter 351 cubic inch engine that produces 510 horsepower. Imagine that 510 horsepower from a street-legal engine. It's called the Ford Windsor engine. I guess you could say it is the royalty of the Ford engine lineup. Imagine taking this car out to Santa Pod or York for a quick quarter mile, which it will do in about 12.5 seconds with street tires on it. Again, completely street legal. Now, if you don't have $60,000 to buy a brand new Saleen S351 Mustang, and I know I don't, I'm only a television presenter, you could call Saleen at their shop here in Irvine, California, and build a Saleen Mustang with all the parts they sell just about from the ground up. It's a traditional American hot rod shop. And like a traditional American hot rod and muscle car company, Saleen also runs a race team. And they may be competing next year at Le Mans in the GT2 class. One of the drivers is Tim Allen, the star of television's Home Improvement. Tim brings a lot of money and a lot of prestige to the team. Disney, which produces that television show, is the main sponsor of the Saleen Allen race team. I talked with Brian Murray, who's the director of marketing for Saleen, about the company's philosophy.
We're a small volume manufacturer that produces a special Mustang, or I should say a super high performance Mustang, that's sold exclusively through Ford dealerships. We produce anywhere from 1,000 to 1,200 units per year. We do produce two models. One is what we call the S281, which is our entry-level version, which starts off at $28,000 US. Secondly is our 351, which is our 510 horsepower supercar, which retails for $52,000 and above. Currently, our distribution is in North America only, in the US and Canada. We are currently, though, looking to expand to the European market. I think the first phase of that will be our entrance next year in the 24 Hours of Le Mans and a few other endurance championships on the European continent.
You can still take a Ford Mustang and turn it into an authentic muscle car. Steve Saleen has proven that with the S351. The engine, the steering, the braking, the transmission, the suspension, all upgraded, all improved, all much tighter, and certainly more performance-oriented than a stock Mustang right from the factory. Now, is it worth $60,000? Well, that's a question only you can answer. But if you want to buy a limited edition American muscle car that's really a modern-day version of the original muscle car, the Pontiac GTO, this is probably the one to buy. And you know what? It does a pretty good job of acting like an authentic American V8 muscle car. Got very few complaints about the car, and you even get about 20 miles per gallon. How could you argue with that? But at $60,000, who cares about the mileage? And you know, it just occurs to me, it's probably raining where you are, and I'm driving a Saleen Mustang convertible in Southern California, and well, you're not. Sorry. Professional drag racing is a spectator sport that pulls in crowds to rival soccer's Premier League. And like football, it also has the equivalent of a Sunday league, the highly illegal amateur sport of street racing. The rules are simple. Hang around one of a few certain parking lots at midnight and wait until someone bets their car is faster than yours. If the cops don't arrive, you could be $1,000 richer in 10 seconds, but you've got to be careful out there.
I was right over there at that phone booth when the shooting happened, and it's gone from the point where it was like a fun thing that everybody, enjoyed, and then the gangsters and everything started getting into it, and there were shootings and robbings, and people are racing, instead of for $5 or $10, they're racing for $1,000. And instead of speeds of, say, like 90 or 95 miles an hour, people are racing 140, 150 miles an hour. It's gone from a crowd that wants to race to a crowd that just wants to hang out and make trouble and try and see who's superior and all that kind of stuff.
But the first race of the night is on, so everyone moves out to a street the racers have quickly shut down to normal traffic. To get there, it's a case of follow my leader until you trip over the course marshals. There are great and ancient rivalries at work here. Will it be the Ford or the Chevy first at the finish line? Now, we notice that the parking lot is sort of segregated into Ford and Chevrolet, yet you're a proud Mopar or Chrysler product owner. Tell us about your car.
My car, I got it when I was 15, and the first thing I wanted to do was make it faster, and I kept buying like $50, $100 parts, and I'm 20 now. I've had it for 5 years, and I probably put a total of at least $65,000 into it.
What kind of car is it? What year is it?
It's a '68 Dodge Charger. It's got all the framework done. It's got a full roll cage in it, nice 440 engine, and it's pretty much as far as you can go while still keeping the basic idea of a stock car.
And there are lots of other 20-year-old street racers here who've put 40,000 pounds or more into their cars. It's a serious business, shaving off those tenths of a second before Saturday night comes around again. And remember, there's big money at stake. O'clock in the morning, the inevitable occurs. This activity is dangerous and highly illegal, and there is an official track only 60 miles away.
Street racing is definitely more of a rush. The cops come, you're always watching out. You don't feel the same rush that you do at the track where it's organized and sanctioned and everything.
The police showed up and everybody left. There was only one policeman, about 200 people. If there had been, so I don't blame the cop for not arresting anybody, but what would happen if there were fewer people and a few more police? What do the police do?
Sometimes they'll pull you over. It depends. They just don't have the manpower to Like, there's so many people, everybody goes to the races, comes back here when the police come, goes to the races. It happens all night till like 1, 2, 3 in the morning. And they'll kind of catch as many people as they can, and you can get a ticket just for sitting around and watching, being a spectator.
Aiding and abetting or supporting it?
Yeah, it's like supporting the races. And of course the drivers, if they get pulled over, you get a really big fine for being a driver. You have to do community service, and the car gets impounded, which I can tell you personally.
Yeah.
And it's like $395 to get it out of impound for like 2 days.
Well, that's one excuse to race on the streets.
It's not a bad track, and it's an hour away, you know, an hour. When you got a car that gets 5, 6 miles to the gallon, and you don't have a truck and a trailer and everything else, you got to drive an hour away. That's $20, $30 of gas money, you know, each way sometimes.
Just to get to the track.
And just these people, you know, a lot of us like work at McDonald's or whatever, flipping burgers, you know, or 17, 18, 19, and you don't make that much where you can spend, you know, for one Friday night racing at the track. By the time you get drinks and gas and everything else, and gas for racing, you're looking at 60, 70, $80.
Well, I suppose that's one excuse to race on the streets, but it only leaves me to say, kids, please don't try this at home.
That's all from USA Motors Night. I hope you enjoyed our little slice of Americana, and it helped you understand our love affair with the automobile. Time now for me to enjoy the last few moments of Independence Day, but don't take it personally.